Awakening from ashes. The crimson dust storms of Helios VI howled outside the reinforced windows of the underground facility as director Thomas Blackwood studied the ancient artifact before him. 3 millennia of human exile had led to this moment. His weathered hands traced the smooth surface of the metallic sphere, its dormant circuits holding secrets from a past that had been violently torn away from them. "Director, we've managed to activate the power core," announced Dr. Raven Santos, her dark eyes bright with excitement, despite the exhaustion evident on her face. The young scientist had spent weeks decoding the mysterious device's technology. "You need to see this." The sphere hummed to life, projecting a holographic figure into the chamber. A woman appeared, her image flickering with age, but her voice clear and strong. "This is Admiral Regina Walsh of the Earth Defense Force. If you're seeing this message, then some of us survived. The truth must be known." Thomas felt his throat tighten. Everyone in the room stood transfixed as Admiral Walsh revealed the carefully orchestrated genocide that had befallen Earth. The Galactic Council, far from being the benevolent organization they claimed to be, had deliberately orchestrated humanity's downfall. Their fear of human potential had driven them to attempt genocide. "We knew they were coming," the hologram continued. "This archive contains everything. Our technology, our history, our achievements. Use it, rebuild, and when you're ready, show them why they were right to fear us." As the message ended, Thomas turned to face the assembled team. Dr. Santos was already diving into the data streams, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Commander Julian Frost, head of their modest defense force, stood rigid, his cybernetic eye glowing with barely contained rage. 3,000 years, Julian whispered. 3,000 years of believing we deserved our fate, that we had brought destruction upon ourselves. "The Council's archives paint us as savages," Thomas replied, his voice steady despite the anger churning inside him. "A cautionary tale of unchecked aggression. All this time, we've been hiding on the edges of known space, believing their lies." Dr. Santos looked up from her work, her face illuminated by the streaming data. "Director, this is incredible. The technical specifications alone. Their faster-than-light drives were centuries ahead of what we're using now. Quantum shielding, dark matter manipulation, controlled singularity weapons. Can we build it?" Commander Frost asked, his tactical mind already racing with possibilities. "With time and resources, yes. But there's more." Dr. Santos pulled up another file. They had allies, species that opposed the Council's methods. The crystalline harmonies of Tau Ceti, the shadow weavers of the Nycterian Nebula. Thomas studied the star charts hovering before them. "Are any of these civilizations still out there?" "Unknown," Commander Frost replied. "Our reconnaissance has been limited to avoid detection, but if they survive the Council's dominion, then we're not alone in our resistance." Thomas straightened, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. "Dr. Santos, I want every piece of technical data analyzed and verified." Commander Frost, begin drawing up preliminary defense modernization plans. "We'll need to expand our production facilities, but carefully. We can't risk the Council detecting unusual activity." "What about the civilian population?" Julian asked. "They've lived their entire lives believing we were the architects of our own destruction. This truth, it could spark chaos." Thomas moved to the window, watching the dust storms rage across the barren surface of their refuge world. "We tell them. All of it. Our people have survived on hope and determination for 3,000 years. Now we give them something more. Purpose." Over the next few months, Helios VII transformed. Hidden factories were expanded, ancient designs adapted to modern materials. The population, initially shocked by the revelations, rallied with a fervor that surprised even Thomas. Generations of pent-up survival guilt transformed into righteous determination. Dr. Santos led the technical renaissance, her team working tirelessly to reconstruct humanity's lost achievements. Commander Frost's soldiers trained on increasingly sophisticated simulation systems, preparing for battles they hoped would soon come. 6 months after the discovery, Thomas stood in the newly constructed war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing their progress. The first of their advanced ships was nearing completion, built in secret underground hangars. Their population of 10 million, all that remained of humanity, had thrown themselves into the preparation effort. "We've confirmed it," Commander Frost reported, his cybernetic eye pulsing with excitement. Long-range scans detected Council communications passing through the Vega sector. Their control isn't as absolute as it once was. There are gaps in their network, opportunities. "And the weapons systems?" Thomas asked. Dr. Santos stepped forward. "The prototype quantum lance is operational. Limited yield, but enough to prove the concept. Give us another 3 months, and we'll have a full battle group ready." Thomas nodded, studying the tactical displays. "We're not ready for a direct confrontation yet, but perhaps it's time to let the galaxy know that humanity isn't as extinct as they thought." He turned to his advisors, seeing in their eyes the same fire that burned in his own. 3,000 years ago, they tried to erase us from history. Now we're going to remind them why they failed. Prepare a stealth team. It's time to find out if any of our old allies are still out there, waiting for a spark to ignite their own rebellion. The ancient archive had given them more than just technology. It had given them truth, purpose, and most importantly, hope. Humanity was done hiding in the shadows. The time for reckoning was approaching, and this time, they would not be caught unprepared. Rising storm. The stealth vessel, Shadow Strike, glided silently through the debris field of an ancient battle, its advanced cloaking systems making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Captain Lyra Henderson stood at the helm, her augmented eyes scanning the tactical displays as they approached their target, a supposedly abandoned mining outpost on the edge of Council space. "Energy signatures confirmed," reported Lieutenant Marcus Wong, his fingers dancing over the sensor controls. "Definitely not abandoned, and definitely not Council tech." Lyra smiled grimly. After 2 months of following leads from the archive, they might have finally found something. Life signs. Crystalline formations consistent with Tau-Cetan biology. "They're still here, Captain." The crystalline harmonies had been humanity's strongest allies before the fall of Earth. Their silicon-based civilization had opposed the Council's aggressive expansion, only to disappear from official records shortly after humanity's supposed extinction. "Opening secure channel," Marcus announced. For several tense moments, only static filled the communication system. Then, a harmonic tone emerged, resolving into words. "Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted space. Identify yourself, or be destroyed." The voice was melodic yet threatening, transmitted on frequencies that hadn't been used in millennia. Lyra took a deep breath. "This is Captain Henderson of the human vessel Shadow Strike. We bring greetings from Helios VII and seek to rekindle old alliances." Silence stretched for what felt like eternity. Then, impossible. The humans were eradicated. "This is some Council trick. We survived, and we found the Phoenix archive." Lyra transmitted the authentication codes they'd discovered in Admiral Walsh's data. "We know the truth about what the Council did, to us and to you." The response was immediate. "Follow the transmitted coordinates exactly. Any deviation will result in your destruction." As they approached the asteroid, its surface shifted, revealing a hidden docking bay. Inside, they found not just a mining outpost, but a fully operational base. Crystalline beings moved with fluid grace through the chambers, their faceted bodies refracting the dim light. The Tau-Cetan leader, who introduced himself as Harmony Seeker through Darkness, was a towering crystal formation that pulsed with internal light. "For 3,000 years, we have waited, gathering strength, building our forces in secret. The Council believes they broke us, reduced us to a primitive mining species. They are wrong." Back on Helios VII, Director Blackwood received the news of the successful contact with cautious optimism. Dr. Santos had already begun collaborating with Ta-Cetan engineers, their combined knowledge accelerating the development of new technologies. "Their crystalline computing systems are incredible," she reported during a senior staff meeting. "Combined with our quantum lance technology, we could create weapons the Council has never seen before." Commander Frost, however, remained cautious. "We need more than just the Ta-Cetans." According to the archive, the Shadow Weavers controlled vast networks of information. If any of them survived. Already on it, Captain Henderson's hologram interjected. "The Ta-Cetans have given us coordinates for possible Shadow Weaver enclaves. We're prepping for another reconnaissance mission." Over the next few months, humanity's secret network grew. The Shadow Weavers were indeed still active, their ethereal forms having infiltrated the highest levels of council bureaucracy over the centuries. The Forge clans of Vulcan Prime, another lost ally, were found maintaining their ancient traditions in the heart of a plasma storm. Each contact brought new resources, new technologies, and new hope. But it also brought increased risk of discovery. Council patrols began showing unusual patterns, as if searching for something they couldn't quite detect. In the war room of Helios VI, Director Blackwood studied the latest intelligence reports. "They sense something's coming. We need to accelerate our timeline." Commander Frost nodded grimly. "The first battle fleet is ready. The Ta-Cetans have provided enough stealth technology to outfit our entire force. The Shadow Weavers have given us detailed intelligence on Council military movements. The Forge clans are mass-producing our new weapon systems." "And our people?" Thomas asked. "Ready," Julian replied firmly. "Every man, woman, and child on Helios VI knows what's at stake. We've trained, we've prepared, we've planned. We're as ready as we'll ever be." Thomas turned to Dr. Santos. "The quantum lance platforms. Deployed and cloaked at the designated coordinates. One command will bring them online." Her dark eyes gleamed with fierce pride. "They won't know what hit them." Director Blackwood took a moment to study the faces of his command staff. In them, he saw not just determination, but absolute conviction. They had spent months building this coalition, gathering their strength, preparing for this moment. "Send the signal," he ordered. "Tell all our allies. Operation Daybreak begins in 48 hours. It's time to remind the Council why they were right to fear us, and wrong to think they could destroy us." As the orders went out, ships began moving into position throughout the sector. The storm they had spent months gathering was about to break, and the galaxy would never be the same. Breaking chains. The Council's primary military installation in the Arcturus sector was considered impregnable. 3 rings of automated defense platforms surrounded a massive space station, home to the sector's entire defense fleet. High Counselor Zelnak, a towering insectoid being, stood in his command center, multiple compound eyes monitoring status displays with practiced efficiency. "Another drone sweep," he ordered. "Something isn't right. I can feel it." His instincts, honed over centuries of military service, were screaming warnings. But the sensors showed nothing, the patrols reported nothing, and his superiors were growing tired of his paranoia. They never saw the first strike coming. At precisely 300 Standard Time, 40 quantum lance platforms decloaked simultaneously, their concentrated beams of energy cutting through the outer defense ring like paper. Before the alarms could even sound, hundreds of ships appeared from seemingly nowhere. Human vessels flying alongside Ta-Cetan crystalline ships and the plasma-wreathed dreadnoughts of the Forge clans. Multiple contacts. Zelnak's officers shouted in panic. "They're everywhere." "Impossible," Zelnak chittered. "The humans are extinct. The Ta-Cetans are broken. The Forge clans are primitive miners. The Council lied." The voice came over all communication channels, accompanied by the image of a human female, Captain Lyra Henderson of the Human Alliance. "For 3,000 years, you've kept the truth buried. No more." The Shadow Strike led the charge, its advanced weapon systems targeting command and control centers, with surgical precision. Behind it, the combined fleet executed their battle plan with devastating efficiency. Ta-Cetan ships phased through solid matter to appear inside the station's shields, while Forge Clan vessels unleashed experimental weapons that turned the very fabric of space against their enemies. Commander Frost coordinated the assault from the flagship Redemption, his cybernetic systems directly interfacing with the tactical network. All teams execute Pattern Delta. Cut off their retreat vectors. The Council forces fought back with desperate ferocity, but they were facing weapons and tactics they'd never encountered. Dr. Santos' quantum lance technology proved particularly effective, creating localized singularities that swallowed entire squadrons of enemy ships. On Helios VI, Director Blackwood watched the battle unfold through real-time quantum entanglement feeds. Status of secondary objectives. Shadow Weaver agents have begun broadcasting the truth across all Council information networks, reported his communications officer. The Phoenix archive data is being released to every world in the sector. The Council's lies are being exposed even as we speak. The battle lasted less than 3 hours. When it was over, the most significant Council military installation in the sector was under Alliance control. High Counselor Zelmak stood in chains before Captain Henderson, his mandibles twitching with impotent rage. "This changes nothing," he insisted. "The Council's power spans galaxies. This is but one sector of many." "You're wrong," Lyra replied calmly. "This changes everything. Your own people are already asking questions. Why did the Council lie about humanity? What else have they lied about? The age of secrets is over." Back on the Redemption, Commander Frost was already coordinating with their allies for the next phase. "The Council will retaliate with everything they have," he warned during an emergency strategy session. "Let them come," Director Blackwood responded via hologram. "Every move they make now only proves what we've revealed about them. The more brutally they respond, the more systems will turn against them." Dr. Santos spoke up from her station. "We've already received messages from 17 previously neutral systems requesting alliance negotiations. The Shadow Weavers report growing unrest on hundreds of Council worlds." "And our casualties?" Thomas asked soberly. "Minimal," Julian reported. "The quantum lance platforms performed beyond expectations. The Council had no defense against combined Ta-Cetan and Forge Clan technology. We've lost 12 ships, mostly to suicide runs by desperate Council commanders." Thomas nodded grimly. "A victory, then. But this is just the beginning. The Council will adapt to our tactics. They'll develop countermeasures. We need to press our advantage while we have it." "Agreed." Captain Henderson's hologram joined the discussion. "My teams are already analyzing the data cores we recovered from the station. There are other installations like this one, other sectors we can strike." As the Leadership Council discussed their next moves, news of the battle spread across the galaxy at FTL speeds. The return of humanity, the survival of the supposedly broken races, the exposure of the Council's lies. It was a powder keg that had been waiting 3,000 years for a spark. That spark had finally come, and the galaxy was about to burn. Hidden daggers. In the depths of Council space, on a station that didn't officially exist, Supreme Counselor Verax watched the reports of humanity's return with an expression of cold calculation on her serpentine features. The loss of the Arcturus sector was troubling, but not unexpected. After all, she had helped engineer it. "The prototype is ready," announced Chief Scientist Dren, his translucent body pulsing with nervous energy. "Though I must again express my concerns about the ethical implications." "Ethics?" Verax's laugh was chilling. "The Council wasn't built on ethics, dear Dren. It was built on power. And Project Omega will ensure we keep that power." Deep within the station's secure labs, a massive device hummed with barely contained energy. 3,000 years of development, all leading to this moment. The humans thought they had found humanity's lost legacy in the Phoenix archive, but they had only found what the Council wanted them to find. On the Alliance flagship Redemption, Commander Frost felt a growing sense of unease despite their continued successes. "The Council is falling back too easily," he reported during an emergency session. "They're abandoning strategic positions without a fight." Director Blackwood's hologram nodded grimly. "The Shadow Weavers have detected unusual energy readings from the Carina sector. Something massive is being moved under heavy guard." "Could be a trap," Captain Henderson suggested, her image flickering alongside the others. "But we can't ignore it. If they're consolidating around a superweapon—" Dr. Santos interrupted, her face pale. "Director, I've completed my analysis of the quantum patterns we've been detecting. They're familiar, too familiar." "Explain," Thomas demanded. "The energy signatures match theoretical models from the Phoenix archive, but they're more advanced, more refined. It's as if—" She hesitated, "as if someone took our own technology and spent 3,000 years perfecting it." The implications hit them all at once. Commander Frost was the first to speak. "They didn't just try to destroy us. They stole our research, our innovations. And they've been building on them ever since." Thomas finished. "The Phoenix archive wasn't just a message to survivors. It was bait." The command staff sat in stunned silence as the full scope of the Council's manipulation became clear. They had been playing into Verax's hands, following a script written centuries ago. But they weren't the same humans the Council had tried to destroy. They had learned, adapted, forged new alliances, and they had one advantage the Council couldn't have predicted. "Dr. Santos," Thomas said quietly, "tell me about the quantum anomalies you detected during our first tests of the Lance platforms." Raven's eyes widened as she realized what he was suggesting. "The temporal echoes. We dismissed them as equipment malfunctions, but if the Council's weapon operates on similar principles, how quickly can you adapt our shields?" A slow smile spread across her face. "With help from the Tasetans, give me 48 hours." As the Alliance prepared for their next move, Supreme Counselor Verax put the final phases of her own plan into motion. Project Omega would do more than simply defeat the human alliance. It would rewrite the fundamental laws of reality in the Council's favor. What she didn't know was that deep within her own organization, Shadow Weaver agents were already at work. Lieutenant Wong, working undercover in the station's communications hub, carefully planted quantum-encrypted messages in routine transmissions. The Council's weapon might be powerful, but it wouldn't be a surprise. Time was running out for both sides. The Alliance fleet gathered its strength while Dr. Santos and her team worked frantically to modify their defenses. The Council moved Project Omega into position, believing their victory was assured. The galaxy held its breath, knowing that the next engagement would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of all species. The board was set, the pieces in motion. All that remained was to see who had truly learned the lessons of the past 3,000 years. Dawn of Reckoning. The Carina Nebula blazed with weapons fire as the largest fleet battle in 3 millennia reached its climax. The Alliance forces, led by the Redemption, engaged the Council's defense fleet while specialized strike teams attempted to reach Project Omega's control station. Multiple quantum distortions detected. Lieutenant Wong's voice crackled over the tactical network. "They're powering up the device." Commander Frost's cybernetic systems processed the battlefield data at lightning speed. "All ships, execute pattern Sigma." Dr. Santos, status of the shield modifications. "Quantum resonance field holding." Raven reported from her station on Helios VI. "But we've never tested them at this scale." The massive device at the heart of the nebula began to pulse with impossible energy. Space itself seemed to warp around it as Project Omega came online. Supreme Counselor Verax's voice echoed across all frequencies. "Behold the price of defiance," she announced. "With this weapon, we will not simply destroy our enemies. We will erase them from history itself. The temporal energies will reach back through time, eliminating humanity before they ever reached the stars." But something was wrong. The weapon's energy patterns weren't behaving as expected. Dr. Santos' voice held a note of triumph as she explained. The quantum resonance fields aren't just protecting us, they're creating a feedback loop. The temporal energies are being reflected back into their own system. On the control station, Verax watched in growing horror as Project Omega's containment fields began to fail. The weapon she had believed would cement the Council's power forever was turning against itself. Captain Henderson's voice cut through the chaos. "All ships, clear the nebula. That thing's going to blow." The Alliance fleet executed an emergency withdrawal as Project Omega collapsed in on itself. The resulting quantum cascade turned the heart of the nebula into a maelstrom of temporal energy. Council ships caught in the effect seemed to age centuries in seconds, their hulls crumbling to dust. In the aftermath, Director Blackwood stood before the combined representatives of the Alliance species. The Council's power had been broken, their ultimate weapon destroyed by their own hubris. 3,000 years ago, he began, the Council sought to destroy humanity because they feared what we might become. In doing so, they created exactly what they feared most: a humanity tempered by hardship, strengthened by allies, and driven by the pursuit of justice. The rebuilding would take time. Countless worlds had suffered under Council rule, and the power vacuum left by their fall would not be easily filled. But for the first time in millennia, the galaxy faced a future free from their dominion. On the observation deck of the Redemption, Commander Frost stood with Captain Henderson, watching repair crews salvage what they could from the battle. "Do you think they'll try to rebuild?" Lyra asked quietly. Julian's cybernetic eye pulsed softly as he considered the question. "Some will try. But the truth is out now, and they'll never again have the absolute power they once held." Dr. Santos joined them, clutching the datapad. "We finished analyzing the Project Omega debris, the quantum principles behind it. With some modification, we could use them for exploration, for healing temporal wounds in spacetime, taking their weapon of destruction and turning it into a tool for progress." Lyra smiled. "Seems appropriate." Back on Helios VI, Thomas Blackwood stood in the same chamber where they had first discovered the Phoenix archive. The hologram of Admiral Walsh still flickered occasionally, a reminder of where they had started. "We did it," he told the image quietly. "We survived. We endured. We proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons, but our ability to forge bonds of friendship and trust across the stars." The future was uncertain, but for the first time in 3,000 years, it was filled with hope. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage, not as conquerors or victims, but as leaders of a coalition dedicated to ensuring such atrocities would never happen again. As the stars turned above their worlds, the allied species began the work of building something new from the ashes of the old order. The Council had sought to write humanity's epitaph, but instead, they had only written the prelude to humanity's greatest chapter.